Welcome to Maker Faire Adelaide 2016. We're really delighted to present the third Maker Faire in Adelaide, and I'm incredibly proud that we've outgrown our mini title and we're now a featured Maker Faire, which puts us up there with some of the big cities in America and in Europe. We're the first featured Maker Faire in the Southern Hemisphere, and we are now the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, which I think for Adelaide is pretty awesome. And of course, like any event, we can't do it without our sponsors. So I'd like to thank all of our sponsors for their generosity, their time, their advice, their access to their auditoriums, their buildings, and of course Tonsley for letting us take over their site and do some very cool and amazing stuff. We'd like to also thank particularly the City of Marion for sponsoring the speakers program, and the Department of State Development for sponsoring the workshops, our media partner ABC 891, and our sponsors, the Office of Green Industries SA, Trotec, who've bought a very cool laser printer, and the Office for the Ageing, as part of SA Health, who sponsored a very special masterclass for over 55 makers who got an opportunity to work with Dr. Zoz Brooks, who flew in especially from Boston to take the masterclass, and they have built a very cool Rube Goldberg machine that ends by shooting fire. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And of course, we want to thank 3D Printer Gear, TAFE SA, Flinders Uni, Mobile Science Education, JCAR, and all our other amazing sponsors, and we really couldn't have done it without you. And a huge thank you as well to all our exhibitors who've given up hours of time making things just to come and show them off here. We had a bit of a party last night for exhibitors and sponsors and volunteers, and we had people who left early so that they could go finish their exhibit. So there's nothing quite like leaving it to the last minute and having it down to the wire. But I'm really pleased to say that everything's looking fantastic. We've got speakers here from New Zealand. We've got academics, educators, makers, inventors, and we've got visitors from Perth, Newcastle, Melbourne, Brisbane, Ipswich, who are all coming to check out what we're doing here in Adelaide and how they might be able to take it back to where they are and find out what they can learn from us and how we can continue to grow the maker movement and maker fairs around Australia. And of course, we've got some amazing workshops that provide opportunities for people to get hands-on, and pretty much all of our exhibits have opportunities for people to get hands-on. I'm particularly looking forward to having a go with the Lego and the giant bubbles and the vortex cannons. That's always my favourite. And of course, any great event completely relies on people giving up hours and hours and hours of their time in the planning and the finding sponsors and the finding speakers and finding people to run workshops and liaising with makers to make sure that they have a great day. And I want to thank all the volunteers who've given up hours and hours of their time, and some have just come along for the day to help out make the day run smoothly. And I want to also particularly mention David Byworth, who's done all the logistical planning and all the graphic design, who has definitely gone above and beyond to make this day possible. How long we can continue to maintain the Maker Faire in its current form is a matter of debate. We think we've definitely outgrown our volunteer capacity, and having to rely on the generosity of volunteers is becoming increasingly challenging. We're hoping to work closer with institutions and organisations and government and get them ready to be part of the maker movement, because without their support, we're not quite sure what next year will look like. So why do we do this? It's a really good question. I did ask myself at 5:30 when my alarm went off. We do this because South Australian makers, we want to support and we want to connect and we want to promote makers and making in South Australia. And like many great Australian ideas, it started in a pub on a Sunday afternoon after the success of the first mini maker fair. We were like, yeah, we could do that again, I reckon. Yeah, we don't need much. And it's now grown to an event where last year we attracted 5,000, and this morning we had a couple of hundred people lining up to get in from about 9:30. So we're definitely on to something. So we hope that we'll continue to grow maker fairs, not only here in Adelaide, but we'd really like to support growing maker fairs around Australia and maybe into New Zealand. I haven't been to Wellington. I'd really like to go. Just saying, hint, hint. It's also important to acknowledge that the proceeds from today will go to support Fab Lab Adelaide, which is a community workshop providing low-cost access to 3D printers and a laser cutter for anybody who wants to use it. And that at the moment is completely run by volunteers, and so we're hoping that we raise enough money that we can buy some new equipment. So what next? Well, South Australia, like pretty much the rest of Australia and around the world, is facing a lot of challenges as traditional large-scale industries close. The fact that this event's taking place on the site of an old car factory, I think, speaks to the importance of the maker movement. And we believe for South Australia to have a sustainable future, we need to diversify our thinking, and we need to think differently about our economy and our people and the way that we create value and the way we value what is created. And we believe that makers have a key role to play in this. And we want to continue to support the maker community and continue to grow and connect the maker community. And so we hope that we can get those with the money and those with the influence to think beyond the traditional models of business and the traditional models of education, and that business and universities are not the sole drivers of innovation. Australia has a long tradition of innovation in sheds and on kitchen tables and in workrooms, and we really want to support and encourage and recognise the grassroots community and its role in creating business and creating students and workers and industries of the future. So I want to thank you all for coming today, and just driving around in my little golf cart this morning, I am blown away again by the diversity and the professionalism and just the sheer imagination of some of the exhibits. There's a guy dressed up like Gandalf who's doing some Viking tablet weaving. We've got people flying micro drones. We've got the Quilters Guild, miniature artists. Well, he's not miniature, his art is miniature. I obviously need another coffee. But the diversity of exhibits never ceases to blow me away. So thank you all for coming, and thanks to our sponsors and our volunteers and our makers for making this a fantastic day.